I've been a police officer for 10 years. A few weeks ago, I found my niece's face on a missing poster. The date on it was the day I found it. I started my shift just like any other, with a cup of coffee. 10 years on the job, caffeine's basically part of the uniform. Get to work, throw on my uniform, grab the keys to my sector car, get the coffee flowing through my veins as fast as possible. My routine rarely strays. I stop at the same coffee shop 5 minutes from the precinct. They know my name, they know my order. I could walk in half asleep and still leave with exactly what I need. While I waited at the counter, my eyes drifted over to the corkboard near the door. The one layered with half-torn flyers and yellow business cards. Landscapers looking for work, a babysitter trying to pick up extra hours, a dog walker for people too lazy or too busy to do it themselves. Just as my name was called, something new caught my eye. A missing poster. I don't remember ever seeing one there before. Maybe I never paid attention. I grabbed my coffee and stepped toward the board. I took a closer look, tugging the paper free from the thumbtack. The photo stopped me cold. It wasn't a blurry security image or a kid who looked kind of familiar. It was my niece. Her school photo. The same one my sister keeps on the fridge. The same one I carry in my wallet. Above the picture, bold black letters. Missing. Last seen. The date written there was the same day I was standing in that coffee shop, holding it. I didn't have time to be confused. My hands were already patting my pockets, searching for my phone. When I realized it was still in the car, I ran, shoulder-checking the door on my way out, nearly spilling someone's latte as I pushed past. No missed calls, no voicemails, no texts. I hit my sister's number. No answer. Tried again. Nothing. I kept calling the whole drive over. Each ring felt longer than the last. I pulled up hard in front of her house, tires scraping against the curb. My niece's scooter was still on the porch from the night before, lying on its side. I rang the bell, then knocked, then called her name. The door flew open. My sister stood there, hair wet, bathrobe disheveled, eyes wide like she'd just run from the shower. For a second, she just stared at me, confused, trying to place why I was there. Then she saw the crumpled flyer in my hand. The color drained from her face. What happened? I stepped inside. She knew something was wrong before I said a word. I held out the paper. Look at this. Her eyes went wide. For a second, she didn't breathe. What the hell is this? She's fine. She's at school. Are you sure? Yes. I saw her get on the bus just like every morning. Call the school. Now. You're scaring me. Why wouldn't she be there? Just call. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands. I turned away, trying to keep my head clear. I needed to radio this in, tell a supervisor, something. There was no chance in hell I could finish my shift without knowing she was safe. I walked into the kitchen, trying to gather my thoughts, mind racing. The fridge caught my eye. The picture, her school photo, the one I had grown accustomed to seeing, was gone. I went back to the living room. My sister was standing still, phone slipping from her hand. It hit the floor and bounced once against her bare foot. Tears filled her eyes. She never made it. I called my supervisor and explained the situation. Told him we had a missing juvenile. Told him about the missing poster I found. He assured me that all hands would be on deck and told me to wait there so my sister and I could give statements when the other officers and detectives arrived. Even though my sister was distraught, we still needed answers. I asked her about the missing photo from the fridge. She looked confused. I never took that photo down. Why would I? The pit that had already settled in my stomach felt like it was spreading through the rest of my body. I told my sister not to move and stood up slowly. I took the gun from my holster and began to clear the house. Something hung over the place. I can't put words to it, but it didn't feel right. The last room to check was my niece's. I opened the door and stepped inside, ready to confront anyone or anything I saw. Her room was always a disaster. Clothes on the floor, toys everywhere, half-finished drawings on the desk. Now, it was spotless. Bed made with perfect corners. Toys put away in every bin they belonged in. No clothes on the floor, not even dust on the dresser. I called for my sister. She came to the doorway and froze. Did you clean this? Did she clean this? I asked. No. Her voice was flat, empty, and she broke down crying. The first unit showed up less than 10 minutes after I called it in. Blue lights rolled across the front of the house, painting the walls. 2 uniforms came through the door, calm but moving fast. One of them knew me. He didn't say anything, he just gave a small nod that seemed to say, "We got it from here." I holstered my weapon and stepped back toward the kitchen. The energy drained out of me all at once. I could feel the weight of the gun pulling at my belt, the sweat drying cold under my vest. A detective arrived next, followed by crime scene techs. They moved quietly, professional. My sister sat at the table with a blanket over her shoulders, answering the same questions again and again. I tried to focus on the facts for my statement. Time, location, who found what, but my mind kept jumping back to that room. A tech brushed powder over the door frame, then over the dresser. Nothing but smudges. He went to the window next. After a minute, he called the detective over. They had found prints on the inside glass. Small ones. Too small to be mine, too defined to be old. Outside, the radios crackled. More units canvassing the neighborhood, checking the bus stops, talking to anyone awake. I stood by the front window, watching the reflection of the red and blue pulse across the street. Then a voice came over the radio. "Dispatch, we've got something at the bus stop. Another poster, different photo, same handwriting." Everyone in the room went still. The detective looked at me. "Stay here," he said quietly and headed to the door. I watched him leave, lights spilling after him into the dark. I wasn't about to just stand there, so I followed. The photo seemed to be taken that morning. My niece standing at the bus stop, backpack on, head turned toward the street. The detective asked, "You take this?" I didn't answer, because we both knew I hadn't. The detective kept the photo sealed in an evidence sleeve. He told me to go home, get some rest, let them handle the canvas. I nodded, but once again we both knew I wasn't going to sleep. My sister needed me. My niece needed me. I walked back to the house to tell my sister what we'd seen. Her world was crashing down around her. She shouldn't be alone. I convinced her to grab a few things and come stay with me until we figured this out. With no other choice, she agreed. We stopped by the precinct to pick up my personal car. Not many words between us. I looked over at her. We're going to find her. I'm going to find her. No response. She just stared out the window. When we pulled into my driveway, I got out first and grabbed her bag from the back seat. The porch light flickered once as we walked up. Something was stuck to the front door. Even before I read it, I knew what it was. Another missing poster. Another different photo. It was from my birthday. My niece hugging me. Both of us smiling at the camera. A picture that only I had. A picture that was in my living room. The detectives came to sweep my house. The door frame showed no forced entry, no prints. The birthday photo was gone. That night, sleep never came. My sister was on the couch wrapped in a blanket, the TV still playing from where we'd left it. The volume was low, a soft hum under the silence. I checked the doors twice, then a third time. Every lock, every window. When I walked back into the living room, my sister had finally drifted off, exhaustion winning over panic. I went to grab another blanket for her. That's when I noticed the empty space on the wall. I couldn't believe someone had been in my house. I couldn't believe any of this was happening. And then I heard it, a faint whirring sound from down the hall. I followed it toward my office. The sound grew louder, steady. When I opened the door, the printer on my desk was running, pages spilling onto the floor. I stepped closer and picked one up. A missing poster. Same format, same bold letters. Each one, a different photo of my niece. While gathering the flyers from the printer, I stayed on edge. Every sound in the house felt louder than it should have been. The hum of the machine wasn't just noise anymore. It was crawling under my skin. Then I heard a scream. My sister. I sprinted toward the living room, grabbing my gun off the kitchen counter as I passed. She was on the couch, folded in on herself, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. I wanted to go to her, to tell her it was okay, but my training kicked in. Stay vigilant, stay alert. What happened? I asked, moving toward the window. I peeled the blinds open just enough to see outside. Nothing. Just the soft yellow of the streetlights bleeding across the lawn. I checked the locks on the doors and windows. Everything was still secure. She could barely get the words out, voice shaking between each breath, but I heard her. I saw a flash. Someone took a picture outside the window. I told my sister to call 911 and not to move. I stepped outside, gun drawn, scanning the yard. Nothing. No movement, no footprints, no sign anyone had been there. I approached the bay window of the living room. Still, nothing. Just as I started to catch my breath and turn back toward the house, a blinding light hit me, the flash of a camera. Before I could react, my head slammed against the glass. I heard my sister scream, her voice fading into static. When I came to, she was still screaming my name. Lights and sirens echoed off what was left of the window. Stay down. An ambulance is on the way. I'm fine. I tried to stand up. I wasn't fine. My vision was blurred. Blood was running down my face, and my legs barely held me. I tried to hide the pain, but then I saw it, lying next to me on the ground. A photo. It was me, right before the attack. I should have given it to the detective. It was evidence after all. But this wasn't just a case anymore. It was personal. If anyone was going to find my niece, if anyone was going to find the monster doing this to us, it was going to be me. The EMTs started working on me, but I told them I wasn't going to the hospital. They made me sign a waiver. They tried to insist, but that ended fast once they realized I wasn't changing my mind. After the officers and the detectives finished questioning us and taking our statements, they told us to spend the night somewhere else. Both of our houses were off limits now. They didn't feel like ours anymore. We didn't feel safe. My niece, her daughter, was still missing. And the bastard who did all of this was playing games with us. We got a hotel room just before sunrise. I sat on the edge of the bed and reached into my pocket. The photo was still there. I stared at my own shocked face, trying to think, trying to make sense of it, but my head was still too foggy to string a thought together. I turned the photo over. 3 words were written on the back. She is perfect. As I read the words, they echoed in my mind. She is perfect. The handwriting was neat, careful, almost gentle. That made it worse. I kept staring until the letters blurred together. Each time I blinked, I saw the flash of the camera again, white and violent behind my eyes. My sister was still asleep in the other bed, face pressed into the hotel pillow. I didn't want to wake her. I just needed air. I know I wouldn't be able to sleep. The sun was barely up when I found myself back at the coffee shop. Habit dragged me there before reason could stop me. I needed fuel. I couldn't rest and needed some sort of pick-me-up. The bell above the door chimed the same way it always did. Same stale smell of beans and sugar. Same barista behind the counter. Mark, I think. The guy who always remembered my order, always asked about my day, laughed at the dumb jokes I made. It was nice to see a friendly face. Rough night? He said, smiling. Haven't seen you in early in a while. I forced a grin, slid a few crumpled bills across the counter. Yeah, something like that. He wrote my name on the cup, like always. The pen scraped lightly against the cardboard, the sound piercing my ears as if I was hungover from emotions. As he made his way over to the counter to hand me my coffee, he slid the money back to me. This one's on the house. Hopefully a nice start to a perfect day. That word, that goddamn word. She is perfect. Those 3 words ringing in my head. I let out an uncomfortable laugh as I said, Thanks, man. He slid the coffee over to me. My name on the cup in red marker. The handwriting, it looked familiar. I had seen this before. Was I just being delusional? I'm not sure, but I felt like I had seen it before. She misses you, you know. I slowly began to look up. What? Your niece. I'm sure she misses you. What was happening? The news. He must have seen it on the news. The case was getting a lot of coverage over the last 24 hours. Yeah, I said, clearing my throat. It's been rough on everyone. Mark nodded, still smiling that same easy smile. But something about his eyes didn't match. They were focused, like he was studying me. She came in here with you that one time. Hot chocolate, extra whipped cream. Cute kid. My stomach tightened. You remember that? Of course. I remember everyone who walks through that door. Listen, You left this here last time. Mark reached under the counter and slid a small paper sleeve toward me. A corner of glossy paper peeked out. My chest tightened. I pulled it free just enough to see the image, and everything inside me went still. It was my niece's school photo. The same one that hung on my sister's fridge. The same one I kept in my wallet behind my badge. Where did you get this? Mark smiled, kind and unbothered, like we were talking about the weather. Your sister should really lock her windows. The coffee shop noise seemed to fade, replaced by a dull ringing in my ears. My hand drifted instinctively toward my holster. Don't, he said quietly. If you pull that thing out, you'll never see her again. My throat went dry. Where is she? I managed. He leaned forward, elbows on the counter. His voice softened, almost pitying. You told me all about her. Her name, her school, the way she scrunches her nose when she laughs. You even showed me this picture yourself. I tried to remember. I didn't want to believe it, but I could hear myself doing it. Talking too much over coffee, filling silence with small talk. He slid the photo closer. My name was written on the back in red ink. She's perfect. Just like you said. The bell over the door chimed in. Someone came in for their morning latte. I blinked and the photo was gone. Just my cup of coffee cooling on the counter. I looked to Mark. If you don't want her to end up like the others, he said barely above a whisper, you'll listen to exactly what I say. He didn't blink. He didn't raise his voice. He just stood there, calm, like we were still two regulars talking about the weather. My pulse was hammering so hard I thought everyone in the shop could hear it. What did you do to her? Mark tilted his head slightly, almost disappointed. That's not the question you should be asking. A woman behind me laughed at something on her phone. The milk steamer hissed. Life went on, like the world didn't notice what was happening right in front of them. You're going to go home, he continued. You're going to act normal. You're not going to tell anyone about this conversation. Not your sister, not your detective friends. You'll hear from me when it's time. And if you do anything stupid, she'll end up just like the others. He said it so simply, like it wasn't a threat, just a fact. I stared at him, waiting for a tremor, a flinch, something, but he just smiled, that same polite smile he gave every customer. Have a good day, officer. He turned toward the next person in line, and just like that, I wasn't a customer anymore. I was a hostage. I walked out before he could say anything else. The bell over the door chimed behind me. The same cheerful sound I heard 100 times before. But it felt different now. Hollow. Mocking. The air outside hit cold against my face. Morning rush hour had started and people were crossing the street with their coffees, laughing, living in a world that hadn't been flipped upside down. Mine had. I stood there on the sidewalk, gripping the cup he'd handed me. The cardboard was warm against my skin, but my hands were shaking. I kept telling myself to breathe, to think, to do something. Call the precinct, call anyone. But his words kept replaying in my head. You'll listen to exactly what I say. It wasn't the threat that scared me. It was the certainty. He said it like he'd already won. I didn't drive straight to the station. I went back to the hotel. My sister opened the door before I could knock. Her face was pale, eyes sunken from another sleepless night. Where were you? She asked. I just needed to clear my head. She searched my face. You look like hell. I've had worse shifts. She tried to smile, but it broke halfway through. I keep thinking maybe she'll call, like this is all some mistake. I forced myself to meet her eyes. We're going to find her. I promise. She nodded, but I could tell she didn't believe me. I keep replaying that morning. What I could have done different. Don't do that. You'll drive yourself crazy. You're one to talk. She was right. I stayed until she finally lay down, exhaustion winning over fear once again. I watched her breathing even out before I slipped out again. I parked 2 blocks away and sat in the car with the engine off. My phone sat in my lap like a live grenade. I wasn't supposed to call anyone. I wasn't supposed to do anything, but I couldn't just wait for him to call. If he said the others, then there had to be others. I drove to the precinct, let myself in through the side entrance, and pulled every missing person report I could find that matched my niece's age bracket. No one was watching. The desk officer was half asleep. I sat in the dark with the blue glow of the screen washing over me. Names, faces, addresses. Most were runaways, custody disputes, tragic but explainable. But a few felt wrong. Clean houses, quiet neighborhoods, parents who described the same eerie calm. Nothing seemed out of place. It looked like she'd just gone to school, the bed was made. The phrase kept repeating across different reports like background noise I hadn't noticed before. Not enough to build a case, just enough to itch under my skin. One detective had even written, no signs of struggle, a room unusually tidy. Unusually tidy. I leaned back in the chair. If I said anything, if I pointed this out, it would sound like pattern chasing, like paranoia, but I knew what I was looking at. He wasn't picking victims, he was picking environments. Perfect homes, perfect kids. He'd been doing this for a while, quietly, carefully, long enough that the evidence looked like coincidence. I copied what I could onto a flash drive and pocketed it. When I left the building, the night air hit cold and sharp. The streets were empty. For a second, I thought about going back to the hotel. But the thought of seeing my sister's face again, of having to lie, it made my stomach twist. So I sat in the car instead, the reports flickering in my head. The dashboard clock read 2:43 a.m. when the phone buzzed. Block number. I didn't answer at first. I just watched it light up once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th, I picked up.
You're working late,
Mark said. My stomach went cold. How do you know that?
You drive like someone's looking for a reason not to go home.
He paused, almost amused.
Did you find them? The others?
I said nothing.
I figured you might. You're a good officer, a practiced one. That's what I like about you. You believe repetition makes things safe. You do something enough times, you start to think it'll protect you.
My throat felt tight. What do you want?
To teach. Perfection begins with practice.
The line stayed quiet for a beat. I could hear faint movement on his end, something brushing against fabric. Then the soft click of a switch.
You practice every day. Routine, coffee, uniform. You think that makes you strong. But repetition is just another way of hiding fear. So tonight, we will practice something new.
I'm not playing your game.
You already are. You've been playing since the day you met me. Tonight, go home. Don't look for me. Don't call anyone. Just keep practicing what you do best, pretending everything's fine.
The call ended. I sat there staring at my reflection in the windshield. My pulse was still hammering in my ears. Practice. That word again. It crawled under my skin. The phone buzzed again at 4:17 a.m. Block number. I almost didn't answer. Part of me hoped if I ignored it, it would stop. But it didn't. I picked up. Where is she? Mark's voice came through soft, steady.
You sound tired.
Tell me where she is.
You've been asking all the wrong questions. That's what happens when people don't understand the lesson.
I rubbed a hand over my face, trying to steady my breathing. What lesson? He let the silence hang long enough for me to hear how calm he was.
Perfection takes practice. And what better place to practice than when she learned what perfect looked like?
The words just hung there between us. For a few seconds, I didn't move. I didn't even understand. She never cared about perfection. Her room was always a wreck. That was half the joke between us. I used to step over piles of clothes and tell her it looked like her closet exploded. She'd laugh and say it was creative. But that night, when she went missing, her room had been spotless. Too spotless. My chest tightened. He wasn't talking about some memory. He was talking about now. I swallowed hard. Mark.
She's improving. You should be proud. I think she finally understands what I'm trying to show her.
The line clicked. For a long time, I just sat there, the phone still in my hand. The air inside the car felt heavier, like the oxygen had thinned. I wanted to believe he was bluffing, that maybe he meant something else, but the words kept replaying. Where she learned what perfect looked like. Her room. That perfect room. He was there. By the time I started the car, my hands were shaking so bad I nearly dropped the keys. I was halfway to the house when my phone lit up. My sister. Hey. She cut me off before I could say anything. Her voice was frantic, high, trembling.
I just talked to her.
I gripped the wheel tighter. What?
I talked to her. She called me. I swear to God, she called me.
My pulse slammed in my ears. Slow down. Tell me what happened.
She was whispering. I could barely hear her. I kept saying her name, and then I heard him.
My stomach turned. You're sure?
It was him, the man who took her.
She was crying now, breath catching between every word.
He told her to say something, like it was a game.
I swallowed hard. What did she say? There was silence on the line except for her breathing. Then she whispered,
Mommy, he wants me to tell you, perfection takes pain.
I slammed the brakes, the car jerking sideways on the road. What?
That's what she said. And then she screamed, and the call just ended.
I pressed the phone tight to my ear, but there was nothing left. No sound. Stay in the room. My voice came out lower, steadier than I felt. Lock the door and don't move. Do you understand me? She tried to speak, but I hung up before she could argue. The road stretched out in front of me, black and endless. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, but I pressed down on the gas anyway. Tires screeched as I pulled into the driveway. I barely threw the car into park before I was out, gun in hand. The front door was unlocked. I pushed it open and moved room to room, slow, methodical, every corner cleared, every shadow checked. The house was silent. The only light came from the crack beneath my niece's bedroom, a faint, steady glow that painted a thin line across the hallway floor. I raised my weapon and turned the handle slowly. She was there, curled up on the floor beside her bed, shaking but unharmed. Her eyes found mine, and she was starting to sob. I holstered my gun and dropped to my knees. Hey, it's okay. You're safe now. I've got you. She couldn't get the words out, just nods, gasps, and the sound of her breathing against my chest. He told me if I got up, he would have killed you. It's okay. You don't have to worry now. Silence filling the air as we embraced. Then a noise broke the quiet. Mechanical, familiar. The printer. It sat on the desk across the room, light blinking. A fresh sheet slid out, face down. I stood up and walked over, my pulse hammering in my ears. When I flipped the page over, my stomach turned to ice. It was a photo of the hotel, my sister's hotel room door. Across it, in thick red letters, perfection takes pain. I called the precinct on the way. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. Yeah, it's me. I found my niece. She's alive. I need units at the hotel we were staying at right now. They started asking questions I didn't have answers for. He's there. He went after my sister. Just get there, please. My niece sat in the passenger's seat beside me, small and silent. Her hands clutched her stuffed rabbit like it was part of her. She hadn't spoken since I found her. The drive felt endless. Every red light looked the same color as the ink on that note. Perfection takes pain, over and over until the words stopped sounding human. When I turned into the parking lot, I saw the light from our room still on. I parked hard and got out, my niece right behind me. The door was cracked open. The smell hit before I could even step inside. Metal, copper, something heavy in the air. I told my niece to stay close. She gripped the back of my jacket like she would never let go. The bed was made, the lamp was still on. Everything was perfect. I cleared the corners, the bathroom, the closet. Nothing. Then I saw it. On the wall above the bed, long, careful strokes of red. Not splattered, not rushed. Written with precision. Perfection takes pain. My chest locked up. I said her name once. No answer. My niece started crying behind me, soft and uneven. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. There wasn't blood everywhere. Just enough to write. Just enough to know she hadn't left on her own. I stood there for a long time staring at that word. The edges of each letter glistened in the light. And that's when I realized he wasn't teaching her. He was teaching me.